Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. I'm Jill from Wendy and one of the conference organizers. We're really excited about this conversation today, how ANZ used AI to increase efficiency and effectiveness in graduate recruitment. This is a pre-recorded session from Pymetrics, but if you do have any questions, feel free to bring those to the Expo Hall at 3 p.m. You can also post them in the chat on the right-hand side, and we'll pull those out to answer them later.
So good morning, everyone, or afternoon. I'm Elise Franklin. I'm a Client Success Manager for Pymetrics, and I'm joined here by Cholena, Head of Graduate Recruitment at ANZ. So Pymetrics is very excited to partner with Wade and Wendy in sponsoring today's event, the Recruitment Automation Conference, as the topic of automation and recruitment very much aligns to how Pymetrics helps companies such as ANZ. So a little bit about Pymetrics before we get started. So Pymetrics is an enterprise software as a service company that is transforming and challenging the status quo in the human capital space. Pymetrics partners and enables companies like ANZ who have been on this journey with us for the last 2.5 years to identify and develop a workforce that is highly engaged, diverse, and adaptive. And we do this by making visible in a data-driven way their employees' potential based on their inherent behavioral makeup, which is really what we know as soft skills. So we do this so that candidates can be matched to the right opportunities when applying to a role. At Pymetrics, we capture unique data sets that are consistent and insightful so that leaders, managers, or HR can make decisions about candidates and employees that are fair, objective, and transparent, and in turn will drive better business outcomes. Our goal at Pymetrics is to help companies like ANZ achieve their talent goals in a process that's fair, data-driven, and likely to find the best candidates for the role. And with that, I will hand over to Cholena to talk more about the exciting results she's seen in the ANZ graduate program.
Thank you, Elise, and hello, everyone. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about the ANZ graduate program. And ANZ, for those who haven't heard of us, is an Australian bank. We are located across 34 markets. Our graduate program is run in Australia and New Zealand, but we also have programs that we're developing in India and Singapore and looking outside of our own geography to see how we can utilise the same success in other locations as we have in Australia and New Zealand. So if we step back for a moment and just think about the ANZ graduate program and really what we're trying to achieve through that program, that is to build adaptive graduates who can then develop the critical capabilities that ANZ needs to succeed in a fast-paced digital world. The world is changing and the way that we do banking is changing as well. So rather than seeing ourselves as a financial services company, we really believe that ANZ and the ANZ of the future will be about data and technology. And so bringing in early talent who are able to learn and develop those critical capabilities is the key to our success as we continue to transform over the next several years. Now, when we think about our campaign and really attracting graduates to ANZ, the story that we're telling the market around being a digital bank is really critical and critical to that success, and attracting the type of talent that we need is having a process that shows that we are a bank that embraces technology. And so the benefits of using Pymetrics helped us to be efficient in the way that we recruited, but also helped us to be effective in identifying staff, attracting staff, sorting through all of the applications that we received and bringing that number of applications down to a number that was more manageable as we moved through our assessment process. So just a few key aspects to our campaign. We focus on the future workforce and as I said before, what the bank of the future needs from our early talent. Now, as part of that campaign, we like to think of our campaign as an experience that we create for our candidates, where we provide them with a digital process with a human touch at the right points in the process as well. And we receive fantastic feedback from candidates when we've picked up the phone and invited them to come and meet us, because traditionally, as they've been working through other graduate program campaigns, what they found is they receive a lot of email communication, but it's those key pieces of digital experiences punctuated by that human touch that has really made a difference to them. And finally, as we think about the way that we market our graduate program to early talent in Australia and New Zealand, we know that experience is the cornerstone of our marketing. So as we design our campaign, we try and make sure that we're not just assessing candidates and doing that in an efficient and effective way, but the experience that we're creating for them is memorable, so that when they are receiving offers, and some graduates can receive up to 16 offers, they're choosing ANZ because we provided them with a great experience, and that gives them a promise of what they might expect when they join ANZ in the months to come. So if we think about how Pymetrics has helped us to provide the kind of experience that we're looking for, but also provide us with a robust process whereby we can take 4,000 applications and bring them down to a number that's manageable, where we only offer 100 graduates across Australia and New Zealand. The first step to starting this journey with Pymetrics was to build a model that was based on what success looks like in ANZ. So in partnership with Pymetrics, what we did is we actually identified 50 graduates who were our top graduates from the program, and not just looking at them from a lens of their performance and the outcomes that they'd achieved both on the program and when they rolled off our 18-month to 24-month program, but also making sure that they demonstrated the values that we wanted to see in our graduates. And those values come down to things like integrity, collaboration, respect, but also embracing learning opportunities as well. Going back to that adaptive leadership piece, our graduate program moves graduates around different areas every 6 months. But in fact, the nature of our workforce is asking people to be more adaptive to the changes and the challenges that we face into as a bank in the market that is facing us at the moment with 2020 and the year that we've had. Now, we run 2 campaigns across the year, one that starts in February through until March, and we make offers around April, May. And our next campaign, which will start in July, to hire interns and a few grads as well. So Pymetrics are what we consider an assessment at the top of the funnel. And from a candidate experience, we use Pymetrics as our first interaction with a candidate. We don't ask candidates to apply for the program through a resume or a CV. The experience for them is they register interest, they type in their details, their name, address, the minimum amount of information that we can ask from them, and then they play a series of 16 games, which helps us determine if they are the right fit for our program. Now, you'll see the model in front of you that Pymetrics built for us based on the profiles of our 50 top performers within the graduate program. And that model is unique to ANZ. So as candidates apply for the program, their performance in their game playing, these 16 games that they play, is compared to the model. And we're recommended the top 30% of candidates from that model as well, who are in that highly recommended bucket. So it really helps us to gain efficiency rather than looking at 4,000 resumes. We're able to come come out of the Pymetrics part of our assessment process with that top 30%, and then we take them through further stages in the process as well. Now, if we think about the goals that we tried to achieve through our campaign, the first, as you can tell, is really creating a fantastic candidate experience. The second is making sure that our process is efficient but also robust, and that the assessment is assessing what we need it to demonstrate to us that this candidate is a good fit for our culture and are aligned to our values, but also that the candidate is right for the graduate program. There's a particular experience when you're hired into an organisation and you're asked to move around different teams every 6 months. So you really need to be quite flexible and adaptive. As you can see from our model there, you also need to have a great ability to learn and quick decision-making skills as well to be successful in the program. What we value also as part of our program is diversity, and that's diversity both in the way that we measure diversity traditionally, so gender diversity is absolutely one of those measures, but also diversity of thinking. A comment that we received when our 2020 grads started back in February, when you could see all of our graduates all lined up, was they were all very different to each other. And that was feedback that I really valued, because what it showed me was, even though we had set a very high benchmark of what good looks like in ANZ, it didn't mean that we had this cookie cutter model of what the potential new employees would look like. They were different to each other culturally. They were different to each other in terms of their backgrounds, their economic backgrounds. They were different to each other in terms of the degrees that they had studied as well. And we, of course, achieved gender diversity. I think around 3% of our cohort also reported experiencing some kind of disability. So we ticked all of our boxes there, and that was largely due to using a process which included Pymetrics. So if we just compare what our numbers looked like using Pymetrics across all of the program, you can see there with Pymetrics at the top of the funnel how we went from all of our applications down until upper stage as well. So after our graduates passed the Pymetrics stage, they then moved down to their next stage, which is an OPQ assessment, which is a personality profile. And then we use a video interview process as well. Now, if we talk about efficiencies and how much time that we saved in the program between the previous campaigns before we used Pymetrics and the campaigns where we are now using Pymetrics, you can see that we were able to attract more graduates, but we actually saved time because we were spending less time reviewing resumes, and we also improved our overall quality. What that meant in terms of time saved back to recruiters was that overall we saved 3 FTE in resources, and those 3 FTE could then work on other parts of our program and how create great experiences through our development program as well. So there's a couple of numbers on this slide in terms of hours saved in recruiter time and time saved for particular recruiters. But I think just having the benefit in my team, which is a fairly small team, and being able to dedicate the resources I'd usually dedicate to sourcing, assessing, looking at resumes, to have them then spend that time on high value activities like coaching and developing and assisting graduates who are already on the program to be successful was certainly a major win for ANZ and a major win for our graduate program as well. So there are a lot of different ways that we measured success there, from making sure that we achieve those diversity targets to the efficiencies as well. But we also saw some great wins, including increasing our offer acceptance rate. We had fewer people pull out of our assessment centre than we had previously. And overall, again, that experience that was created and the overall satisfaction of the graduates who went through that program really helped us shift the dial in terms of our overall graduate satisfaction, not just in recruitment, but in the following stages of the graduate program as well. Now, we've been talking a lot about efficiencies and time to hire. We reduced that time to hire by 2 weeks, which again gives us the opportunity to get offers in front of candidates sooner and not miss out on people due to lengthy recruitment processes. Something else that I think is certainly worth calling out as we are talking through those experiences is that it gave us the opportunity to attract candidates that we hadn't necessarily attracted in the past. People were interested in applying for our program because they heard about what a great experience we were providing to candidates. So they weren't just attracted to ANZ and the ANZ brand, which is quite well known in the Australian New Zealand market, but they were attracted to us because they'd heard about this digital process with the human touch. They'd heard about the games. They'd heard that it was a fun application process. So people who may not have thought of ANZ before as a potential employer of choice applied out of interest and then stayed because they received the experience that we promised. So again, if we look at the metrics around candidate experience, you can see there that candidates have been completing the assessment. So a 99.6 completion rate for our 2020 intern program, hiring 99.7 completion for our 2020 graduates, high satisfaction ratings, and it only takes between 33 and 39 minutes to play. So if I compare that to the experience that we provided prior to introducing Pymetrics, previously it would have taken a candidate around 2 hours to complete our application process, and that would have included submitting your resume or CV, writing some responses to application questions through our application tracking system. It would have then included a suite of assessments which looked at inductive reasoning, numerical reasoning, verbal reasoning, and of course a personality profile, which we retained. So the drop-off rate prior to Pymetrics was quite significant, and from memory it would have been more than 20%, probably closer to 30% of candidates dropped off from when they first applied to when we sent them the testing that we asked people to do, versus that very high completion rate that we've had with Pymetrics, which has been great news. Now, because diversity is so important to ANZ, what we had asked Pymetrics to do is just give us a guarantee that this process is fair. We wanted to make sure it was fair for women in particular, but from people from various cultural backgrounds, particularly for our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander candidates in Australia. And as you can see there, the results that we received through using our own assessment and reviewing how our candidates completed the assessment helped us really have that comfort that we weren't just providing a great experience. It wasn't just all fun and games, and it wasn't just a robust experience, but it was fair. It was fair regardless of your cultural background, and also regardless of your gender as well. And look, this is a slide that really helps us to show how over time working with Pymetrics has helped us attract a more diverse candidate pool. So before we started looking at using tools like Pymetrics and making other improvements to the program, what we found was we had certain universities which we predominantly hired from. Now, those universities, and a good way to explain this slide is to the left-hand side, you can see the universities in Australia, which are the most expensive. And then you can see the universities in Australia, which are the least expensive universities. The universities with the asterisks beside them are universities that offer STEM programs, so science, technology, engineering, and maths, which is really important to ANZ. So over time, through using this kind of process, we've been able to increase the number of graduates hired onto ANZ from the universities that haven't necessarily had representation in the past in our graduate cohort. So while we still have students who come from some of the more prestigious and expensive universities in Australia and offer really great education, what we're starting to see now is an 11% decrease in graduates being offered roles from those more expensive universities. So again, helping us to reach candidates from lower socioeconomic backgrounds has really shown us that taking this approach, which is very much a blind approach, we don't look at resumes until we've virtually hired people. We've been able to really explore what we can do, how we can recruit people in a more efficient and effective way, how we can bring in new types of thinking, and how we can attract a different candidate pool whilst also maintaining the integrity of our purpose. And that purpose, of course, is to build adaptive graduates and help them to develop the critical capabilities that we need. So I'm very grateful that we have had the opportunity to work with Pymetrics and really partner on making our graduate program campaigns a success. And I'm looking forward to our next campaign in July. Thanks, Elise.
Thanks, Cholena. That was awesome. Great to hear those exciting results. And I think that's it from us. So if there's nothing else, thanks to everyone who's listening in, and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.